Swadika, it's a pleasure to have you join us on Newsline. We're broadcasting live on NBT, Radio Thailand FM 88, and on NB2 World. Today it's Thursday, and the date is March 24th, and my name is Sandra Hanutsaha. Welcome to today's segment of Thailand Moves Forward. In our first story, Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha yesterday attended the first Makong Lanchang Cooperation, or MLC, leaders meeting in China. The meeting was attended by leaders of the Makong sub-region countries, as well as Li Keqiang, Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China. The meeting reviewed the rapid progress made under MLC and laid visions for future cooperation, namely 1. Political and security issues, 2. Economic and sustainable development, and 3. Social, cultural, and people-to-people exchanges. While 5 priority areas identified were connectivity, industrial and production capacity cooperation, cross-border economic cooperation, water resources management, agriculture, and poverty reduction. MLC aims to narrow development gaps, promote good neighborliness, and support ASEAN community building with a view to achieving Sustainable Development Goals 2030. The meeting adopted 3 outcome documents, namely the Sanya Declaration, which expresses political will in various areas of cooperation, the Joint Statement on Production Capacity Cooperation, and the Joint List of Early Harvest Projects, which includes 45 projects proposed by all member countries. On the sidelines of the MLC meeting, bilateral meetings between Thailand and China were held, both at the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister levels, to exchange views on MLC and bilateral issues of common concern. The Thai government has expressed its condolences towards attacks in the Belgian capital of Brussels that took place on Tuesday. Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha has relayed his condolences to Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel following bombings that took place at Brussels International Airport and Malbeek metro station, which resulted in numerous deaths and injuries. In a letter to his Belgian counterpart, General Prayut wrote that he was saddened by the news of the bombings and that he, the Thai government, and the people of Thailand will stand in solidarity with Belgium. He also denounced violence against innocent people in all forms. Meanwhile, in Brussels, residents in the Belgian capital continued to gather at the city's Place de la Bourse Square on Wednesday to commemorate the victims of the blasts. At least 31 people were killed and 271 wounded in the attacks. The death toll could increase further because some of the bomb victims at Malbeek metro station were blown to pieces and victims are hard to identify. Several survivors were still in critical condition. The Syrian-based Islamist group claimed responsibility for Tuesday's attacks, warning of black days for those fighting it in Syria and Iraq. Belgian warplanes have joined the coalition in the Middle East, but Brussels has long been a hub of Islamist militants who operated elsewhere. The government has been content with how the Constitution Drafting Commission, or CDC, took the proposals on the new draft charter submitted by the Four Rivers. Deputy Prime Minister Wisanu Krungam yesterday said that he is fine with the changes to the draft charter made by the CDC after they have viewed the proposals, which were endorsed by the National Council for Peace and Order. Mr. Wisanu said that even though the CDC did not apply all proposed changes, he is still confident in the discretion of the charter drafters. He added that after the CDC clarifies all changes to the public, the draft charter will eventually pass the public referendum. Deputy Prime Minister General Prawit Wongsuwan also said that the government is not having any conflict with the CDC, while affirming that all proposals have been made with an aim for the benefits of the country and the people. As the drafting of the permanent constitution is still ongoing, let's find out what the new charter will look like once it's completed in this special report.
There's been a lot of feedback about the draft constitution. Let's consider the facts to ascertain its merits. First, a mixed-member proportional representation system to a single ballot is more democratic. The reason is because the system places considerable importance on minority constituency representation. On the other hand, a party-list system has representatives that are elected by a process based on the sum of a number calculated from the quota of overall representatives of each political party. So if the number of elected constituency representatives of any party is lower than the quota, more party list representatives can be added up to the quota for the party. Parties with a higher or equal number of constituency representatives than the quota will not be allowed to include any more party list representatives. But this also means that parties which receive the majority of votes can legislate without adequate checks and balances. This draft constitution, therefore, allows for other parties to be included to enhance the balance. The comment that anyone who is an outsider can become Prime Minister is misleading. In the past, the Prime Minister had to be an MP who was then nominated by the Parliament. This new draft constitution requires that there must be a maximum of 3 nominated representatives from each party to let the public know beforehand who the Prime Minister could be if the party wins the election. People will be aware in advance and have the right to vote more carefully. In the past, senators who were in charge of scrutinizing laws were appointed through the election system. This meant that senators were from the same political parties as the MPs, implying fewer checks and balances. On the other hand, the new constitution allocates power to people by allowing citizens to apply for senator positions. This is a way to prevent nepotism in the form of parents, children, and spouses of politicians, and who have been politically active in the past 10 years to become senators. Also, people can apply to become senators without professional restrictions. Moreover, independent organizations which can control the government without scrutiny do not exist. The Constitutional Court does not have the power to instruct the government to do anything. The only thing it can do is to exercise its discretion and rule in the event of a political crisis, which scrutiny by National Anti-Corruption Commission. The reason for this is that during political deadlocks, for example, the Prime Minister can be dismissed, leaving the caretaker Prime Minister without administrative authority. This prevents the government from tackling urgent issues. Therefore, during a crisis, the Constitutional Court may have the authority to appoint a body to approve a state budget or to make an executive decision on behalf of the Prime Minister. This is to maintain stability in national administration. Lastly, it is recommended that everyone study the draft charter thoroughly. Whether the draft charter would pass the referendum, it depends on all citizens. So please do vote in the referendum.
On to other news. Interior Minister General Anupong Paujinda has traveled to Khon Kaen province to observe the drought situation and has ordered local authorities to urgently help affected residents. General Anupong paid a visit to Ban Ton Subdistrict municipality in Phra Yun district of Khon Kaen, where authorities have been successful in tackling water shortages. 6 water filtration plants were set up to provide clean water for local residents free of charge, and as a result, the impact from drought on 9 villages and nearly 2,000 families has been alleviated. Moreover, irrigation canals have been excavated in low-lying areas of the sub-district to supply water to farmland. Water pipelines have also been extended to highlands, while solar-powered pumping stations have been built in remote places. On this occasion, General Anupong assigned responsible officials in all drought-affected provinces to survey their localities and solve problems at their roots. The Monetary Policy Committee unanimously agreed to maintain the policy interest rate at 1.50% a year and decrease this year's GDP estimate to 3.1% due to its grim export outlook. Deputy Governor of the Bank of Thailand, Chaturong Jantharang, said the committee revised this year's GDP estimate down from 3.5% to 3.1%, following the prediction that the Thai 2016 export value would grow at -2%. The public sector's increasing spending as well as higher service exports could only partially compensate for the export contraction. The deputy governor stressed that the Thai economy this year would expand by 2.8% compared to 2015, and there was no deflation in Thailand. The committee remarked that the 1.50% policy interest rate was supportive of the Thai economic recovery, saying the current monetary policy was still being eased and Thailand should maintain the capacity to implement monetary policy. And that is the end of today's edition of Thailand Moves Forward. Up next in ASEAN News, the Ministry of Commerce has pushed for regional cooperation on IP protection. But first, here's a look at the exchange rates and also the commodity prices.
Pad Thai. Created from Thai wisdom, used to be served on banana leaf, and the banana tree is used for practicing Muay Thai. Muay Thai was trained in the temples, which can be found on the mountains, in the caves, or on the water, everywhere, just like Pad Thai. There are thousands of other stories to discover. Discover your amazing stories in amazing Thailand.
ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. Due to recurring natural disasters in the ASEAN region, the ASEAN Committee on Disaster Management has become the main authority to coordinate emergency help during disasters. Moreover, there is background of cooperation in terms of environmental sustainability and restoration of natural forest land to reduce the impact of disasters. One vision, one identity, one community.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. In our ASEAN News, the Ministry of Commerce is seeking cooperation from trade partners and other ASEAN member nations in a bid to prevent all types of intellectual property or IP infringement. According to Commerce Minister Apiridi Tantraphon, the 49th ASEAN Working Group on Intellectual Property Cooperation meeting is currently being held in Bangkok to set up regional cooperation on IP protection and a long-term management plan. Ms. Apiridi said IP products are important to businesses, especially those manufacturing innovative goods. As technology becomes sophisticated, new types of copyrights violation have also emerged. The Department of Intellectual Property has always been sharing and receiving information about IP rights and infringement with other nations. This will help improve IP management in Thailand and prepare the country to become a party to international agreements on IP, such as the Madrid and the Hague agreements. Minister of Commerce Apiridi Tantraphon has expressed confidence that foreign investors are still confident in Thailand's potential to be a production base of automobiles and a hub of transportation in the region. The minister said after meeting with executives of Ford Motor Company that the company, whose investment in Thailand is the third largest of its total investment in foreign markets, confirmed to use Thailand as the company's production base. The executive said Thailand had high potential to be ASEAN's hub of car production, and the company had a plan to invest more in Thailand. The minister said further that Denmark and Thailand would likely develop trade and investment together in the future, especially in the logistics sector. Denmark also believed that Thailand could be ASEAN's logistics hub and commended the Thai government for its clear strategies to develop the country's logistics system. She added. Earlier this week, Ms. Apiridi met with Danish ambassador to Thailand, Mikkel Hemnity-Winther, and executive of Maersk Group, Niels S. Andersen, to discuss trade and investment between the two countries. And now for a look at news from around the globe. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier in Moscow a day before he is due to meet with President Vladimir Putin to discuss Russia's role in Syria. Kerry is expected to discuss his concerns about Syria with Steinmeier ahead of his meeting with Putin. The meeting at the Kremlin comes on the heels of the Russian leader's surprise announcement on March 14th that he was partially withdrawing his forces from Syria. While the United States wants Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to step aside, Russia says only the Syrian people can decide his fate at the ballot box and has bristled at any talk of regime change. With a fragile truce in place in Syria and warring sides attending peace talks in Geneva, a State Department official said that Kerry wants to, quote, get down to brass tacks on the question of Assad's future. Other issues that will also likely be discussed include Ukraine and this week's attacks on Belgium. After meeting with Putin on Thursday, Kerry will visit Belgium on Friday to voice U.S. support for investigations of Tuesday's bombings. The United States has offered assistance in the investigation of the bombings at Brussels airport and in its metro that killed at least 31 people and injured 271. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement that a businessman from China pleaded guilty to conspiring to hack into the computer networks of major U.S. defense contractors, including Boeing Company. Subin, age 50, faces a maximum 5-year sentence for allegedly conspiring with 2 other people in China to obtain sensitive military information and export it illegally. According to U.S. government court filings, Su began working in 2008 to target U.S. companies. In 2010, he emailed a file to an unnamed individual in China which contained information about Boeing's C-17 military transport aircraft. Su also helped his co-conspirators decide which company employees to target and translated documents. The Justice Department said that Su, who was arrested in Canada in 2014, ultimately consented to U.S. extradition in February. Su's attorneys could not immediately be reached for comment. Boeing spokesperson Todd Blaker said the company fully cooperated with the authorities throughout the investigation and welcomed this development. And that's all we have for you in today's edition of Newsline. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions, then please feel free to email them to us at newsline.nbt@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook by typing in NNT, and have a look at our website at timenews.prd.go.th/en. Today we say goodbye with footage from the Cincinnati Zoo of a dog caring for cheetah cubs who lost their mother in surgery. I'm Sandra Hanutsahat for Newsline. Have a great day. สวัสดีค่ะ